Okay, Thany, let's do this. Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Machine Gun Kelly record, Mainstream Sellout. This is a brand new LP from rapper gone punk rocker Machine Gun Kelly, the follow-up to his career-changing Tickets to My Downfall in 2020. Not just career-changing because this record marked MGK changing genres, but it also went #1. It's a platinum record. It did really well commercially. You could say that nobody is eating better off the current pop-punk resurgence than MGK. The unfortunate part, though, is this record could not be more whack. The guitar tones were generic as hell, MGK's passionless lead vocals, where he sounds like he really could not be bothered much of the time, just don't bring much to the table in my opinion. And outside a few very personal moments lyrically on this thing, the songwriting was pretty dime a dozen too. People must be really starving for this sound because as far as pop punk goes generally, this was pretty mediocre. Even with Travis Barker there to give MGK all the punk cred that he can. So I went into Mainstream Sellout hoping it would be a better listen, at least just for my own sake, because I have to hear it. And yeah, it's not very good. Wait, I said I wasn't going to do that this time. I wasn't going to do that. But you know what? I will say this. Mainstream Sellout has a track list that does not just cause my ears to glaze over with every song kind of, you know, blurring into the other songs in the track list. So, but am I remembering these tracks for good reasons? Much of the time, not really. However, admittedly, Mainstream Sellout does have a stronger start than I anticipated. The guitars and drums on Born with Horns, the opener, kick more ass than anything off of Tickets. Vocally, this is the most awake I think MGK has been since his punk transition. Yeah, the droning vocal harmonies about life having no happy endings may be painfully cliche, and the dramatic fake string bridge may make for an awkward transition, but it's still an overall improvement of some sort. Much of the same energy and attitude gets carried over onto God Save Me, which has a lot less lyrical focus for some reason, and that's unfortunate to me because MGK's lyrics about suicidal ideation, depression, as well as his struggle with working hard for somebody else's success in the industry, all of that hits pretty hard. But then from here we break into just suddenly, she's a pop girl, she's a goth girl, spaceships in the sky, and also the government tapping his phone. Like, MGK's constantly wavering back and forth between not knowing where he's going, but then also making his struggles with mental health sound like a teeny bopper type experience. The song Maybe featuring Bring Me the Horizon does have a solid anthemic chorus, some standout guitar lines too. Ollie's vocals work nicely into the song and instrumental as well. The worst and best thing I can say about this track overall is that it's moderately catchy, and by modern pop punk standards, it's pretty inoffensive. So again, with these tracks, this LP has a better start than I thought it would. But from here, MGK's grip on making a tolerable pop-punk record begins to weaken. We have Drug Dealer with Lil Wayne, which I think is about as trashy as pop rock in 2022 is gonna get. The formulaic guitars and drums are one thing, but then MGK's portrayal of his history with substance abuse through this lens of like a sort of romantic drug dealer relationship is another, because it's corny. Like, it's not enough to call it low-hanging fruit. This fruit has weeks ago fallen off the tree, it's rotting on the ground full of maggots, and MGK is spitefully scooping it up and just biting into it, really ripping through it like he's starving to death. Also, Wayne's feature on the back end is a traumatic reminder of his rebirth era. Like, you already had the song A, which was a teaser. I don't know why that one came out as a single and not this one instead. It feels like a more fleshed out song. A, by comparison, just sounds like Lil Wayne and MGK recording on the fly after they were high out of their minds. Moving on to the title track, which I think is just a total non-starter. It's just MGK bitterly complaining about people critiquing him as being a poser and ruining punk music, which in a way I get that he does have a point, because I myself hate gatekeeping, I hate pretentious attitudes, and I really don't care at all about real punks whining about fake punks. But I care even less about fake punks whining about real punks whining about fake punks. That's just adding another layer to the shit toilet paper lasagna. Like, I get MGK went into punk music, already a mainstream artist, and he really had nothing to sell. But you know what? He could pull a legit punk move at this point in his career by moving through these records, absolutely not giving a fuck as to what the scene thinks, but it clearly gets to him in his songs and even on social media. Next, we have the track Make Up Sex, which is another mediocre song featuring Black Bear. It worked last time, so why not do it again? This time around, though, it is harder to stomach as the lyrics are just a straight-up romanticization of a super fucking toxic relationship where you don't get along at all and you just hate the hell out of each other, but, you know, making it sound like really cool and sexy, like we're just fighting and fucking all the time. They're just a quirky couple. But you know what? Next we have Emo Girl, which I do think has its catchy moments. It's the closest thing for me this record comes to being a guilty pleasure. In order to enjoy it, I do have to sort of ignore the implications of it. Let's look into some of MGK's lyrics here, because they feel more vague than they are specific to emo girls much of the time. Like the opening lyric, "Makeup by the mirror in her bedroom." Emo girls have figured out this one weird trick, this one weird convenient placement trick for their makeup. They put it by the mirror in the bedroom. Makeup artists are shaking. Plus she takes pics with lipstick, smokes cigarettes, knows all the words to the trap songs. She has a preference on dick size as well. You're almost describing everything that breathes at this point. How are you not mentioning snakebite piercings or raccoon highlights? And not even a single roar on this track. This is my song about football players. He wears pants and he sleeps with a nightlight. Drives a car and he flushes the toilet. He's a football player. From here, MGK gets another anthemic number out of the way with 5150, which, yes, I do think features one of the better tunes here, but it still runs into this awkward wall where it feels as if he's taking his mental struggles and giving them a weirdly commercial appeal, which I guess he's at least aware of in the lyrics to a degree, saying, you know, he romanticized all the wrong things for the wrong reasons, I would say. Look, it could be worse, and believe me, it does, in fact, get worse deeper into the record, because it's past this point that, in my opinion, the tracklist becomes a totally barren, irredeemable wasteland. Paper Cuts, for example, is a woe is me cringe anthem, where MGK has internalized all the hate against him. He's been demonized because he's got an angel face. He's got demons, and he is not going to therapy. And he even packs in a little rap verse on the back end to show the critics, I didn't switch genres, I could still spit. Damn, y'all said that I switched genres. I saw the limit and took it farther. I'm a genius, could have made Donda, but this song is for my dead father. You know, dead father stuff aside, which is obviously a very serious and sensitive topic for MGK that he has covered in his music before quite convincingly, what exactly does he mean here? He saw the limit of what? Of like hip-hop, and instead you saw the long-term potential in pop punk, and also you're a genius, you could have made Donda? Bro, you could not have even made Donda 2. Kanye on his worst mental health day, and you with 10,000 hours of therapy. Like, there still is no competition. Kanye would still make the better record. That's not even a bet. That is guaranteed money. Going deeper, we have World War IV, which is the sequel to World War III off of the Tickets record. And yeah, this is where MGK goes real fast. Hardcore punk, speedy, riffs, shouting. He's saying, your teachers are full of shit. School sucks, y'all. How do you do, fellow kids? God, it's cringe. That I mentioned earlier, that pops up on the back end of the record, that's trash. We also have Fake Love Don't Last. At least this song sees MGK rejecting a relationship that he sees obviously isn't working. Too bad Ian Dior's vocals are generic as hell, and the instrumental pretty much reads like something off of Radio Disney. It's aesthetically gross. Die in California has a lot of features laced up into it with Landon Barker and Gunna and Young Thug, but you could not have made a more generic rap and and acoustic fusion on this one. Then the toxicity is back with Sid and Nancy, which I have a few things to say about this track. One, the infatuation with Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen as punk icons, but also a romantic tragedy case study, is generations old at this point. So I can't completely fault MGK for falling into that very same cultural trap, especially since he is obviously still riding with his punk training wheels. But then two, he takes it a step further with these gross-ass choruses about two people making a pact to die together in like this murder-suicide type scenario, backed up with a bunch of lyrics that make killing and abusing each other sound almost romantic. Finally, we have Twin Flame, acoustic closer, where MGK goes for more of a tearjerker moment, where he's singing about how he's too bad to keep and he's too sad and lonely. Really an attempt, a pitiful attempt, at a Kanye runaway type moment, but it doesn't work. Very little about anything on this record, in my opinion, works. At this point on the record, I really have no reason to emotionally invest and stand in awe of this sculpture you've built in honor of your own self-loathing, especially after that Sid and Nancy shit, please. And it's not that I think here personally, on a personal level, that MGK is beyond empathy and that I don't care about the guy and I'm just like being a callous jerk. It's actually quite the opposite. I think the problems MGK is diving into on this record are so significant that they deserve a bit more care and attention than what they're being given here over all of these dime a dozen pop punk instrumentals, with songs that see the lines between all this toxic behavior and self-loathing and glorification being blurred in some really questionable ways. I will end this review with what I think is the strongest case against MGK making punk music, and it's not because he's a poser and he's ignorant and he's just, you know, making not hardcore music that's really bad and poppy and so on and so forth. Really, the worst thing about MGK making punk is that in every way, his ethos in his songs feeds into the worst stereotypes of punk. Like, being punk doesn't mean anything more than faux rebellion and being an emotionally depraved, narcissistic little shit. So in a way, it's like, yeah, he's just giving it a bad name a little bit, which, you know, may be tough because punk is full of its share of bad actors. That is definitely true. But you know what? MGK, he's not helping. I'm feeling a light to decent 1 on this one. Transition. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, MGK, forever.